Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Now, we've spent a lot of time down at the border over the past, 2 or 3 years, at least since I've been here, documenting various things that have been going on down there. And I did a wrap-up report last week, so I'm not going to go crazy into it. But just so people know the situation down there, the area that they were in, I guess, is some type of restricted area, even though when we went into it, there's no clearly visible sign telling you that you're in some type of government preserve, wildlife preserve. And there's actually footage of Biggs coming in encounter with the Border Patrol agents, or should I say the state police down there, where they're tailing them out. They're saying, hey, you guys can't be here, this and that. Did similar things to us. And just somewhat of the absurdity of it, because looking back, I would say, at least me personally, I feel like I was too hard on the Border Patrol when we did our assignments a couple of years ago. Now, while they do things that I'm not a fan of, like the inland checkpoint, what's it, an hour or so away from the border where they stop you and ask you, if you're an American citizen, I don't like that. But by and large, a lot of things that I used to blame them for, I now understand are a bit out of their control. They have many things that they would like to do, but they can't implement them because the laws on the books don't allow them to be as effective as they'd like to be. For example, when I went down there 2 weeks ago, I met with the agents and we were having a conversation, and of course they were somewhat suspicious of people out there. So they stopped, they asked, hey, what are you guys doing? I said, well, we're just reporters, came out from Austin. We're trying to document people crossing the border. And they said, okay, well, be safe, because they want people to understand what's going on out there. Meanwhile, the wildlife preserve guys, most of them were very nice that we talked to, but they were more inquisitive to our activities. And they're like, what are you guys doing out here? And we'd say the same thing, Austin reporters, we're trying to document. And then they're like, we don't know if you can be out here. And I'm like, well, sir, we're not, poaching wildlife. We're not taking anything home with us. We just have cameras out here trying to document. And the crazy thing about that, while the wildlife guys were talking to us, like two groups of guys came up to us on boats, the wildlife guys. We're having a conversation with them, and they want to know, the who, what, where, when, and why. While they're speaking to us, a boat comes from Mexico, crosses the Rio Grande, and drops people off. I'm like, hey, you guys might want to go check that out. They say, oh, yeah. And they jump in their boats, and they speed off after it. I'm like, this kind of the priorities there aren't exactly what they should be, in my personal opinion. And like I said, when you talk to various people, we've talked to the ICE agents, the Border Patrol agents, people in the local government establishment. They're telling us basically at some point people get taken to the McAllen bus station where they're given vouchers to travel about the country. And as I always try to stress, because I run into some people sometime, I actually did an interview with a young lady, I'm not gonna say what her name was, but she was like, Infowars is anti-immigrant. And I was trying to explain to her that I have no issue with legal immigration. I don't think anybody else in this building has an issue with legal immigration. The reason why we're against illegal immigration, the reason why I support a border, not a border wall, but a border, is because if you talk to all the people I just mentioned right there, they'll be the first person to tell you it's not just the nice women and children that we've seen some of the videos here recently of people crossing over, and I definitely recognize there are men, women, and children coming over who are coming from El Salvador. They just want to get away from the poverty or the gangs or whatever else that's going on there. But you also have criminals who are taking advantage of that system. The Border Patrol vice president I talked to last week, he told us, yeah, we bring in big truckloads of dope coming over the border. Yeah, we catch criminals and terrorists trying to cross the border. And the thing about it is, people need to understand, when you cross the border, you're pretty much on the honor system. So if you're some elusive international terrorist, you're not going to use your real name. You're going to say your name is Bob Jones or something. Oh, Bob Jones, you don't have a criminal record. Come on. And these are things people need to understand. You need a system to verify who people are. But I've spent enough time on that. Just want people to understand that it's not, bigotry or whatever else. And it's not just people coming from Central or South America. The Border Patrol guys tell us people are coming from China and Pakistan and Yemen. And if I lived in Pakistan or Yemen or Afghanistan and I had to worry about a U.S. airstrike blowing up my church or my hospital, I'd probably want to leave too. So I can't fault people for that. I just wish there was a way for them, a more transparent way, a more speedy way for them to go through the legal and lawful process instead of perpetrating with these catch and release programs. Because the people we talk to, they tell us that if people come from Mexico, they basically just send them back across the border. They come from further away, El Salvador, someplace like that. They give them a bus ticket in a very long away court date. So just let's say for the sake of argument, if you come, a two-month walk from El Salvador, you get to the United States of America, and you want to go someplace like Washington State. I want a bus ticket to Washington State. You really think they're going to come all the way back down to South Texas just to get deported and sent back to where they came from? Absolutely not. And once again, families, good people want to come here. I understand that, but I think there should be a more transparent way for them to follow and for them to actually follow that way. But I've spent enough time on that. Let's talk about some other news that's going on right now. Now, I brought this up the other day. When Mrs. Clinton, she comes out and she's just the apple of the American public. She's, the chosen one. And now anything that she says and does is pretty much gospel. Nobody wants to call her on it. Even places like CBS, they did the profile on her many years ago when she was running against Obama. That famous clip of Cheryl Atkinson when they were overseas, I believe it was Cheryl Atkinson, how she documented how Mrs. Clinton never got shot at by the snipers. Now they don't even want to talk about that anymore. And now it's to the point when they talk about her emails, they're not going to file any charges against her, and we'll talk more about that. But the issue is you have guys like Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Bradley Manning, and a couple of those guys we're going to talk about here, have to deal with the fact that they put out information and they're exiled, they're in prison, they're wanted men. Meanwhile, Mrs. Clinton is running for president of the United States of America. And this is what Snowden had to say when he found out how the FBI director was not pursuing charges against Mrs. Clinton. He put out this tweet. He said, "Break classification rules for the public's benefit, you could be exiled, but you do it for personal benefit and you could be president of the United States of America." How very true. What a heinous double standard that people like our whistleblowers have to go through. Meanwhile, Mrs. Clinton, when she talks about wiping the drives, which she did, she wiped them clean and then tried to send them to the FBI, or she thought they were clean, and then sent them over to the FBI. She's like, "You mean wipe them with a cloth?" Like, no, Hillary, we're also not talking about turkey, the Thanksgiving food, when we talk about the country turkey. But she knows all that, and she knows like her viewers are just going to eat it up and they're going to laugh and, "Oh, Hillary's so funny." Meanwhile, the main issues never get addressed. And as I was talking about Bradley Manning, or Chelsea Manning, I guess as he prefers to be called now, there's a situation with Chelsea, not so much related to Hillary, but sources are saying that he attempted to commit suicide. Now, once again, the guy is in there for some very, I think, trumped up charges. Yes, he did violate people's safety and various things when he sent out that information. But meanwhile, I personally view him more as a whistleblower than a criminal. But regardless, Chelsea Manning was taken to a hospital during the early morning hours of July 5th before returning to the barracks. A spokesman said that officials continue to monitor the inmate's condition. Manning, 28, is serving a 35-year prison sentence for his role in leaking government documents to WikiLeaks. But compare and contrast that with Mrs. Clinton, who put many good people's names at risk when she did her activities, but she's walking around free and easy. And even the FBI said she did potentially expose government secrets to hackers, but they say she's the chosen one and blow her out like she's some. I don't know what the hell those people are doing anymore. And as we're talking about James Comey, I want you guys to remember this. It was back in 2003 that investment banker Frank Quattrone was indicted on charges of obstruction of justice by then U.S. Attorney from the Southern District of New York, James Comey, for one email he sent to employees. Comey charged Quattrone for a one-sentence email in which he advised colleagues in late 2000 to destroy documents while regulators were investigating Wall Street investment banks for the way they shared their lucrative initial public offering. So you do that, you get indicted by Mrs. Clinton, and they say, "We have no reasonable attorney would prosecute this woman." I'm like, well, it seemed like you were a reasonable attorney back in 2003, but I guess all that changed when you moved up the ladder there. Moving quickly now, talk about ISIS. And we all know that ISIS has gotten armaments from various governments around the world, but now they're saying that ISIS actually has factories in Fallujah that is manufacturing rockets and other type of ammo on almost a industrial scale. And this is according to the Conflict Armament Research. They said effective organization and strict division of labor has allowed Islamic State forces to manufacture improvised weapons on a quasi-industrial scale. And they document things I just referenced there, the rockets, bombs, and other things. And quickly to wrap up, talking about ISIS, talk about Fallujah and the whole thing's going on there. Tony Blair said he expresses more sorrow, regret, and apology than you can ever believe when it talks about his decisions concerning Iraq back in 2003. The former prime minister called a press conference to respond to the report, stating with an emotional statement that he accepted full responsibility without exception or excuse. So that's just one of the things going on in the world right now. Stay tuned after this break to the Infowars Nightly News for more special reports.
People desperate for staples like milk, rice and flour stormed a supermarket warehouse in Guyana City.
If you go back to 2007, the British Ministry of Defense came out and echoed a Department of Defense report from here in the U.S. saying that beginning in the year 2016, right through 2020 to 2030, that they believe there would be massive multi-100% food price increases worldwide. And that during that global meltdown, that there would be incredible social unrest that would depopulate much of the earth. Now, in 2016, Vice magazine and other publications are reporting on a 2015 report produced by the U.S. government, the UN, and scores of foreign nations, as well as the State Department, overseen by food giant Cargill, the World Bank, and most importantly, the World Wildlife Fund. The World Wildlife Fund is a eugenics, anti-human organization set up by Prince Bernhard, who also founded the Bilderberg Group and who was a Nazi officer. In this new FEMA report, with headline, FEMA contractor predicts social unrest caused by 395% food price spikes, you learn that this is a report filed with governments and major institutions overseen by a contractor that since the 1940s has been the main advisor for the U.S. Navy Marine Corps. Now, all of this said, governments and corporations and institutions are stockpiling food and weapons. They're digging in, they're getting bunkers. Elites are fleeing to places like New Zealand en masse. We've gone from financial meltdown and huge regional wars being a possibility to being a probability to more and more becoming an inevitability. Number one, everybody needs to be able to protect themselves. Everybody needs friends and family they can rely on in crises. And everyone needs high quality storable foods and high quality water filtration systems. But we're offering the biggest wide spectrum sale ever on preparedness items, 20 to 40% at InfoWarsStore.com. On InfoWars Select, high quality storable foods, the highest quality, the lowest prices, powered by My Patriot Supply. We also sell their food as well, their full spectrum. And all of their water filtration systems across the board, from gravity-fed systems like Alexa Pure and ProPure, to shower filters, to survival straws, you name it, it's all 20 to 40% off right through July 4th at InfoWarsStore.com. I know I personally am getting prepared. The warning signs are insane. Take advantage, 20 to 40% off until early next week with the 4th of July holiday special at InfoWarsStore.com.
The globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding and making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv.